Terbufos is very effective at what it does, which is why it also finds its way onto the black market. But that's why big countries that focus on big agricultural production like the United States still use Terbufos, because it is effective at what it does. How do we move people away from these hazardous pesticides onto better ones? Well, first of all, it can't be something that just happens overnight, because if we came out tomorrow and said, well, we're banning Terbufos without exploring alternatives and without allowing sectors to transition, you could end up then with huge problems with crop failure and crop destruction in the absence of an alternative, and that starts to affect things like food security in the country, things like maize production, citrus production, which are also very important for our export economy. The issue around that was who must pay the reparation. Must it be the municipality that failed to have the health inspectors to be visiting spaza shops and removing them? Should it be the Department of Agriculture? Should it be the national government? When we look at reparations, we've got to try and find out who will pay that, and they said they would come back to me with some views and opinions in that regard. But the reality is that, and again, it comes back to Honourable Trollope's point, this is a registered remedy. It is available to be used by licensed users. Much like firearms are licensed and restricted to people who have license, we still have people who are killed through the use of firearms in the country. And I think that you would not be able to sue the state just because you happen to be killed with a firearm that should have been licensed and should have been properly kept, but through somebody else's criminal activity or negligence was not. That being said, I think that we should be looking at support for those families, and it is something that has been raised within the IMC. I think we're due to have a follow-up meeting during the course of this month, and we'll obviously get feedback on this. Even in Europe, when Terbufos was banned, my understanding, having looked at that process, it wasn't a decision made by the European Parliament overnight. It was the subject of a review, the subject of an extensive period where the agricultural sector was able to adapt to new use products. And I think that's what we have to work towards here in South Africa. Again, I must stress that a overnight ban will lead to two things. One, it will lead to crop failure, because if we don't have an alternative to offer our practitioners in the agricultural sector, they're going to end up with crop failures because they won't be able to deal effectively with the pests that Terbufos is so effective at doing. And secondly, I think you will promote illegal use because people will be so desperate to retain the yield on their property that they will seek unlawful forms of Terbufos. So I think bringing the agricultural sector with us towards eradication of the use of Terbufos and other HHPs is the more responsible way to go.